Believe it or not, this rusty penknife over here, don't worry, nothing weird is going to happen. It's the key to increasing your webinar conversions for the rest of your life. My name is Melvin, and together with my business partner Joe, we run the X Factor method. We coach, consult, help many of the top sales leaders, marketers, speakers, coaches, consultants around Asia, around the world. We help them do exceptionally well. Myself, I've done over $36 million worth of sales from the stage, from webinars, from many other platforms, etc. Directly being the one creating the offer, selling the stuff, etc., etc. I've done webinars, retreats, masterminds all around the world. But this video is not about me. This video is about a recent consult I did with one of the leading investment trainers here in Asia. So he's one of our X Factor clients, and he reached out and said, Mel, can you help me with my webinar conversions? And so I took a look at his actual webinar preview. I looked at the slides and I asked myself, what exactly could I do to help this guy? He was already doing pretty well because we've already been helping him for quite a while. What could we do to really help his webinar conversions go to the next level? In this video, I'm going to share 6 tips, very, very simple. Now, the first thing I noticed that this particular person was doing is one of the common mistakes that many people make. Every time I coach and consult people, I recognize that in this field, when you do webinar conversions, people fall into one of 2 categories. The first category is they are a teacher. The second category is they are a salesman. Teachers, generally in a webinar, there are 3 parts, right? There's the front, there's the middle, and the end. Teachers thrive in the middle because they love teaching. They can't wait to get past the front because they don't actually like to talk about testimonials, talk about themselves, talk about success, talk about problems. They just want to get to the teaching, and then they tend to bung up the offer because actually they don't like selling. That's the secret. Now, salespeople, they really like doing the front because they like building authority and talking about proof and results. And they really like closing at the end. They're usually very persuasive and charismatic there. But they don't actually have, in most cases, a lot of substance in the middle. It's kind of interesting. So teachers overteach and salespeople oversell. And so this particular person that we were helping with, he belonged to the category of a teacher. And so I tend to realize that his front was very, very shallow, and he wanted to zip past, and you could tell energetically he didn't want to talk about himself. He didn't want to talk about his organization. He didn't want to talk about the results. He didn't want to talk about the students and the problems. And at the end, he wanted to rush through the entire offer. In the middle, he was slow, he was deliberate, he was intentional, he was charismatic, he was clear. And so the first thing, if you want to improve your webinar conversions, is you need to ask yourself, are you a teacher or are you a salesperson? If you're a salesperson, you need to beef up the middle part and start to give people a lot more clarity on the ideas and concepts you cover. If you're a teacher, which I predict most of you are, you need to slow down and really give people context at the very, very beginning. You need to explain to people who you are, why they should listen to you, why specifically they have a problem, what are different methods they've attempted to solve the problem with, and some of the results, etc., etc. These are things you need to do. And also in the close, you need to slow down and explain. Now, it might oftentimes be a mental hurdle why most people who are teachers do not actually want to do the front or the back. It's because they actually like teaching, and deep down, on a subconscious level, they don't like selling. Now, if you belong to one of these people, here's what I have to say and share with you. I want you to know that at the end of the day, selling is not really selling. It's not about closing the person. It's about enrolling the person in your message. There are 2 reasons why all great teachers, if you like teaching, you need to know how to sell and enroll people in your message. Very simple. Number 1, if you like helping people and teaching people, but you don't enroll people, you can't teach an empty room. A long time ago, I was involved in a kids education camp. And one of the things we realized that a lot of people came into the kids education program because they love teaching kids, but many of them were averse to selling. Now, you have to understand, in the kids education program, 95% of the time we are marketing, we are selling, we are filling up the programs for those magical 7 days every 6 months where we do the kids education program. And so if you don't like selling and you don't like enrolling people, you don't like persuading people and persuading parents and kids why they should come to the program, why they should not, just stay at home during the holidays and watch TV, why they should part with their money and come to the program. If you don't do that, then you cannot help the kids at all in those 7 days. So the first reason why you must be open to really framing, setting context, letting people know who you are, and being deliberate about the offer front and end is because if you don't do that, then you cannot help anyone. And so if you care about helping people, you have to persuade them and you have to enroll them in your message. Now, the second reason why you should be open to doing these things and really take your time and not have a subconscious aversion to doing this is because it's not really about closing. You're not there to take their money. It's not taking advantage of them. You're not taking away something from them. You're there to enroll them in the message. What does enroll people in the message mean? To enroll someone in the message is to highlight to them why they should spend time, energy, effort, attention, money on that which you can help them solve. That is essentially what a sales process is. It's to highlight to people that, hey, you have a problem, and here's my solution, and here's why you should spend your time, your energy, your effort, your attention, your money on this. And if you fail to do that, then people will zip right past, which means they will have a problem and still be unaware about it, or they will have a problem and not take up your solution, which then denies you the chance to help them. So first thing we learn, if you're a teacher type personality, you got to be deliberate in the front and the end. And in so doing, you're actually enrolling people, giving them an opportunity to be aware of the problem and also to be aware of your solution so that they can actually solve it. If like helping people, you got to do this. That's number one. Number two, by the way, after I shared this with him, you could see, because deep down, he did admit towards the end of the presentation that he was a teacher type personality and he was never very comfortable with highlighting results, testimonials, offers and stuff. And so at the end, I told him that, hey, if you like helping people, you got to do this. And you could see that he was so much more open to doing that in a more deliberate manner. I want to talk a lot about this word deliberate also, intentional, when you do these things, because the energy is very important. If you go through the motions or you're trying to rush through the front or the end, people can tell. And of course, then they'll be averse to whatever you are enrolling them into. So it's very important to have your energy correct. Now, number two, this is where this rusty penknife over here, which I found in the drawer, comes in. And what does this penknife do? Yes, when I was consulting this person, I deliberately went to find a kitchen knife. It's not because I'm some kind of violent psychopath, I'm not. But I want to hold the penknife over there, and this kitchen knife in this case when I was helping him. For a simple reason, I wanted it to be a visual metaphor for pain. Now, at the very beginning, when you start that presentation, it's very, very critical. Yes, to highlight who you are, some of the things that you have done, but it's very, very important to let people know specifically that they have a problem and a pain. If we do not highlight this, then our entire webinar, which later sells a concept and a product, becomes a good to have, not a must have. People don't naturally attend your webinar already aware of their problem and pain. They don't. They require you to highlight to them that specifically they already have a problem and pain. You need to bring it to the top of consciousness. Now, after you bring it to the top of consciousness, you need to really dig deep and to highlight to them, hey, this is the particular problem and pain. Here are some of the methods you have tried to solve this problem and pain, DIY, YouTube, many other forms, and it hasn't worked. And then if you don't solve this problem and pain, here's how you'll get worse. That's the third one. And fourth, if you don't solve this problem and pain, here are the other people that will be affected by this situation. Your family, your loved ones, the people who care about you, your job, your employers, your employees, etc., etc. These are the 4 layers of pain. Number 1, you have a problem. Number 2, you've tried to solve the problem. Number 3, if you don't solve the problem, here's all the bad things that will happen. And number 4, if you continue to have this problem, the people that will suffer in your life. These are the many layers of pain that we need to highlight to people, because when it surfaces to the top of their consciousness, then they will be open to hearing about our solution. I have a saying every time I coach clients, teach classes, etc. A problem is not a problem unless it causes people pain. And we must never present our solution until people first have a problem, because if they don't have a problem, then our solution is not really a solution. What is the definition of a solution? The answer to a problem. If people don't feel they have a problem, nobody wants your solution. So one of the key things that we have to do when we present our webinars and presentations, we need to highlight to people the 4 layers of pain that I just mentioned. You got to highlight to people that they indeed have a problem. And therefore, they've attempted to solve it, they haven't solved it. Here's how it gets worse, etc. Now, the next thing we have to do at the start, and I kind of highlighted this, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about this, is we have to highlight our authority at the front. At the very beginning of a presentation, we have to highlight, yes, the pain and problem, but it's very important to highlight our authority, our credentials, who we are. This is the part where a lot of people want to zip past, but they feel a little bit uncomfortable about highlighting all their accomplishments and achievements. It's not about bragging. It's about giving people a reason why they should listen to you. Until people find that listening to you is important, until people find that you're a credible source, they will probably not regard what you have to say as very critical. Let me give you a story. A long time ago, I was presenting at a value investing academy. And at this particular place, the CEO was actually the star of the company. And so when I was presenting over there, I actually collaborated with the CEO to form this particular wealth psychology class. Now, here's the important thing. Everyone came and they didn't know who I was. They knew who the CEO was. But even though I created the entire class, when I first started the class, the CEO did not go up and introduce me. So when I went up there and began teaching without letting people know who I was and what were my credentials, etc. I remember this one particular time, a fellow in the audience raised his hand and said, "Hey man, MC, when is the CEO's name coming?" And I was stunned because answer was the CEO was not there. I was the person supposed to talk. And here's the next thing. He regarded me as the MC. Of course, I felt a little bit offended because I was like, hey man, I created this class. I'm not an MC. But after I cooled down, I thought about it, and it was little regard why he thought I was the MC, because I didn't know who I am. And so even though I wear a jacket, I look a bit young, he was like, hey, who's this guy? Where's the real guy coming? And so it's very important. It's not about bragging. You see, everything I share with you, we talk about both the skill set and the mindset. It's not about bragging. It's about highlighting to people why they should give you their time and attention. It's very, really important. To build their level of authority and say, hey, here's why listening to me is critical. This is why I do it every time when I begin a talk, a sharing session, a workshop, or a webinar. I don't do it and say, hey, here's how much money I made. Yeah, all the people I work with. No, I said, hey, I want to share with you a few things. Because if I don't share these things with you, you might not pay attention to me. Or you might only pay attention to me at the end of my session as you begin to realize this person is actually pretty credible. But by then, you skipped a lot of things that I've mentioned at the front. So I'm going to do you and me a favor by highlighting some of the things and some of the accomplishments I've done to the degree that you will eventually conclude, hey man, I should probably not mess around my phone, scroll YouTube, but this guy is talking. I probably should pay time and attention to him. And so that's the part about building authority is really, really critical. So that's the front part. Now I'm going to do another video where I explain to you the 3 parts and how exactly to do a webinar well. But in this video, like I said, I want to share 6 things that I gave this guy that I thought would be helpful. So the 3 things I shared at the very beginning. Number 1, mindset, teacher versus salesperson. Number 2, we mentioned the idea of sharing the problems and pains. And number 3, we have to build authority and let people know why we are worth listening to. Now, let me give you 3 ideas for the end. The 4th thing, when we move towards our offer, the 4th thing we need to do is we always need to explain why we are different than everyone else in the marketplace. You have to understand that the chances that your particular viewer or audience member who's watching your presentation or you on stage, the chances that they have never ever heard of anyone else talk about this particular problem or offer this particular service is very low, especially in the information economy these days. A lot of people, a lot of competitors who are just probably offering the same thing, they have heard this thing before. And so in their mind, even though you don't do a comparison, they are doing a mental comparison. I've heard about XYZ, talk about this. I've thought about ABC, I've thought about this. How is this person different from this YouTube guy that saw on this other ad? And so it's really critical that you, before you prepare this presentation, or before you actually move towards your offer, it's very important to do a bit of competitor research and go and find out what are other players in your market and bring it up before they even think about this. And just say, hey man, here's our particular offer. And by the way, before we continue, here's how we are different than everybody else. Being able to highlight this and address this is really critical. Now, one of the things that I love to help clients with is I love to help them not do objection handling. One of the things that I really, really do not like doing is handling objections. I know this runs counter to a lot of things that you may have watched before, read before, heard before. But I naturally do not like solving problems. Here's what I like to do. I like to prevent problems from even happening. And so I don't like to get to the part where I have to address objections, even though later on I will mention doing one of those things I call the mirror technique, where we take some of the objections, that's the 5th method by the way, where we take some of the ideas and objections that people have and we surface them even before they are aware of these. But in general, I like to solve and dissolve objections before they even come up. I'm all for prevention rather than for cure. And so I know that they are going to do that comparison in their mind down the road. I'm going to bring it up first. Here's how I'm different from everybody else. There are other people in the players in the market. Here are the things that they offer. Here's what makes me different. And so there's a 4th thing. I raise that even before we get to that. Now the 5th one, which I just mentioned just now, is called the mirror technique. The mirror technique is after you review your offer and a whole bunch of things, right? You raise some of the ideas and objections and questions and thoughts they have in their mind. Now, this is a little bit challenging if it's your first time ever doing a presentation or webinar, because you probably have not encountered or do not know what some of the audience members are thinking. The answer to that, unfortunately or fortunately, is experience. The more times you do your webinars, the more times you present, the more times you stay at the back of a room or the back of a big room, which I've done before, and listen to people ask you the same questions over and over. Or if you're doing a Zoom webinar, you look at the Zoom chat and at the end they ask the same questions. I have done hundreds, close to 1,000 webinars across all different topics. After a while, people just keep asking the same questions. And after you know these questions, then you start to apply what I said just now, which is, I don't actually want to answer these questions. I want to surface these questions before they are asked in the chat or the back of the room, and I want to answer all of these. There is a Chinese phrase, it might not be Chinese watching this, don't worry, I'll translate it, called 自问自答. What does 自问自答means? I own self-ask, own self-answer. That means I ask the questions that the audience members are likely thinking, and I answer the questions myself. And so usually after you do a lot of presentations and webinars and check the Zoom chat, etc., you tend to realize there are only a few questions that people ask. how is this different? How I'm not sure if enough money. Is it worth the time? Blah, blah, blah. You just take the top 5 and you surface it and say, hey, you know what? Before I continue with revealing the price and many other things, I know some of you are thinking this. In fact, some of you are probably going to ask me this right at the end. Here's the number 1 question I get. And you ask the question and you answer the question. You ask the question, you answer the question. Ask the question, answer the question. If you do that, I promise you, you increase your conversions really, really high. Very, very important to do this. Now, what's the last method? The last method is very simple. The last method is to never ever let people know about the cost of what you do. Then you say, hey, does it mean we hide the price forever? No. It's not a cost. Signing up for your service and stuff is never ever a cost. Now, if I decide today to go to Balenciaga and buy a wallet, I would think that there is a spend and a cost. Why? You might disagree. We agree to disagree. But I think it's cost. Why? Because after I spend it, I'm not going to get anything back in return. If I try to sell it secondhand, it's probably going to depreciate. Now that's a cost. When people work with you, it's never a cost because whatever money they give you, they're going to get back in return. Now think about this. If I run a legit investment opportunity and for every $1 you give me, I give back $3, how much would you give me? You would give me, and once you verify that this is indeed legit, you want to give me everything you got. You give me a house. Because give me 1 house, you give back 3 houses. Hey, that's not a bad deal. You give me everything. Give me 1 car, you give back 3 cars. Give me a Rolex, you give back 3 Rolexes. Why not give me everything? See, that is called ROI investment framing. And so it's very important to let people know that whatever they spend on you, they are going to get multiples back in return because there's an investment. Now, of course, this is only true if you can actually help people get a return. So that's another video and another idea for another time, the importance of delivering results. But let's suppose you can indeed deliver results, which means whatever they invest in you, they actually get something back. Then you got to let them know. Today's investment is this amount of money, which can be easily made back with a few simple trades, with a few simple good investments, with a few simple ideas in your business that can make you way more money. It's very important to let them know that this amount that they spend on you, they're going to get back multiples in return. Now, even better, additional tip, we're supposed to give 6, but here's the last one, is to let them know that if they don't do this, then the likelihood is one of 3 scenarios. The first scenario is the fact that if they don't invest the money with you, the likelihood, the first scenario is not good. The first scenario is the likelihood that they will do nothing, which means they will persist in pain and problem. So let's suppose I give you an opportunity now to invest in this so that you can solve your problem once and for all. Let's suppose you don't do this, and you decide to do nothing, you will have a pain and problem. And by the way, if you notice something about pain and problems, if they are untreated, they usually worsen. Imagine right now you sprain your ankle, and you don't go to the doctor for 2 or 3 days, does your ankle mysteriously get better? It doesn't. In fact, it swells up, it gets worse. So if you don't address this problem, which you came here today to the webinar to solve, you let it be, your situation will worsen. Number 2, let's suppose you try to DIY and do it yourself. Now, let's suppose you could solve your own problem, you wouldn't be here on this webinar, which we already can admit that the fact that is you can solve your own problem. But let's suppose you did try, you will soon realize that the amount of money you lose from not knowing what you're doing is probably going to be higher than the investment that I charge you for education. We call it the stupid tax. The price of ignorance. I give you an example. Recently, I started doing a little bit of crypto trading. One particular night, I went in there, didn't know what I was doing. Let's just say 15 minutes later, I was down $500 US. $500 US, if I had listened to somebody, probably, invested in a cause or something, I would have saved myself that $500 US. Now imagine if I didn't actually check, I'll be down 5,000, 50,000 US dollars. That would not be good. And so letting people know that if they didn't listen to you, the price of ignorance is going to be way more than investment. So number 1, we can either have a problem that worsens. Number 2, we can either DIY and actually lose more money. Or number 3, we can invest a small amount of money in education, in professional expert help. And then not only get the money back, but make way more money for the rest of our lives. Here are the 3 scenarios. When you frame and present it in this manner, then it naturally makes sense to do the third one, which is to invest a small amount of money, and they get a massive amount of return and kiss goodbye to this problem once and for all. So these were the 6 ideas I gave this investment teacher, and I know that it will do exceptionally well for him. He's already doing excellent because of the many things that I've been helping him with. I thought this short video would be useful to share with you these 6 ideas. 3 for the front, 3 for the end. I'll catch you in the other videos if you enjoy this kind of stuff. Please subscribe to the channel. Give me your amazing comments. I'm found on all major social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook. Probably going to be a bit more active on TikTok and other places. But I appreciate your comments. As always, I'll see you soon.